Hi guys, and welcome to this episode of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia. I'm coming to you from the UK, and today is Sunday, May 21st, 2023. This is my 10th attempt or something of recording this intro, so we're just gonna go with it now. I am so glad you're here with me to talk about some knitting, some yarn, some holiday knitting in this case, as we've just come back from a trip to Portugal. I try to keep the holiday talk towards the end of the episode, but who knows. To be perfectly honest, I was planning to record a podcast episode today, and then life has been very overwhelming pretty much ever since we came back. So I thought I would skip this episode, but I've decided to do a recording and just sort of get a quick video out there because I do enjoy podcasting, and I just quickly am going to run through what I was planning to knit on holiday, what I actually did knit on holiday, and yeah, this might be a shorter video. Also, usually everything I talk about is on my Ravelry project pages, which are linked underneath this video. I haven't updated them, so if you are looking for details and they are not there, give me like a day or two and I will get everything updated and all the information will be there eventually. So just give me some time, I will work it out. Yeah, so like I said, I've just come back from a holiday and I had a few plans going into this holiday. For the first time ever, I packed the perfect amount of yarn. I packed for a couple of different projects, and every single one of these projects has been cast on and knitted on. And usually what happens is I take too much yarn because I panic and then I come back with half the yarn unused, but this time it's worked out perfectly and I'm very excited about that. So to start off with some finished objects, you may remember last week I told you about a 3-skein sort of surprise bundle from Jude of Stranded Dye Works that I had ordered quite recently to support him and to also sort of challenge myself to just knit with different colors, different weights, just like mix up what I knit on. And I am very proud to say all 3 skeins have been either knit on or actually knit up. So the first skein that I got was this really crazy colorful ball of yarn. This is Jude's DK base in a one-of-a-kind colorway, and it was like crazy variegated. And I have knit, it looks tiny, but this is basically a small adult ribbed hat, which will be for Toddler because he has quite a big head, and I like these ribbed hats on him because while they look tiny like this, they're actually quite roomy and he can wear them for a long amount of time. Sort of the one hat that he's worn all winter long was actually not meant for him. It was basically just a small adult ribbed hat, and it's turned out to be the most useful. So I have done pretty much the exact same thing. I just did a 1x1 ribbed hat, bottom up. I folded it up. I need to block it and then it'll sort of lay a little bit nicer. I didn't use a pattern for this. I think I used 3.75mm needles. Don't ask me for stitch counts or patterns. There's like a million 1x1 rib patterns on the internet, so I just make them up. I did some like swirly decreases, and I think it's really fun. I really like it. Obviously it's very colorful, very variegated. He's really excited about it, and I have enough yarn. I think I have about 65 grams left of a 110 gram skein. It was slightly overweight. So Kai, my husband, wants a hat as well. I'm not gonna make him a ribbed hat, and I don't think I can do a folded brim for his, but I'm thinking maybe I can do a sort of like a single brim and otherwise stockinette hat for him. Or what I was thinking was I would do helical knitting with a different yarn and stripe it, but he wasn't convinced, so haven't made a decision yet. I'm in no rush to knit the second hat, but I'm really excited this one is finished. And because we're on the topic of hats and Stranded Dye Works, I also knit a hat for myself. This was Jude's Aran base, and I struggled with this because I didn't really know what to make with 1 skein of Aran weight yarn. But in the end, I decided to hold it with some mohair, some Katia mohair, And I just made myself the most soft and luxurious and fuzzy stockinette hat. So again, I didn't use a pattern. I'm gonna mess up my hair. I did a folded brim, so I knit stockinette, then did one ridge of garter stitch or purl stitches, and then eventually folded it over and knitted it together. It's really soft. I really like the sort of beanie kind of hat. Not adventurous knitting, but the combination of the superwash merino and silk mohair means this is really, really soft. Again, this has not been blocked, but I think this is going to be actually a really usable hat for me in autumn and winter. Yes, I am talking about autumn and winter in May. Um, the only thing is I don't really wear green, so it's going to be a different color to pair with what I already have, but I think it'll work anyways. I have a navy coat, which might not be ideal, but I also have a yellow raincoat, and also, who cares? I don't necessarily care about matching perfectly well. I just wear what I like. So there you go. For this one, I did also 3.5mm needles, and I believe I did 104 stitches, which is my usual sort of DK weight to Aran weight hat cast on, but don't quote me on that. I don't really remember. I think that's what I did. I also knit on some socks. So I had mentioned last episode that I had a 50-gram skein of self-strapping yarn from Fab Funky Fibers. And of course I have lost the tag, sorry. I had got that on a D-stash for not very much money, and I was really excited about it, and I decided to knit a tube and then eventually turn it into socks. So I think last time I showed it to you, I had cast on the toe, and basically I just knit one giant tube. I knit up the entire skein of yarn, bar the last color on the skein of yarn was black, and I knew I was going to make black toes and heels and cuffs, so I actually didn't do the very last stripe because I didn't want one sock to look like it had a longer toe sort of than the other, if that makes any sense. So I made a massive tube, which I actually really enjoyed the process. It's my first time doing it. I wasn't sure if I was going to like it, but I did really enjoy it. And then when we got home, actually yesterday, I did the second toe. So I started with a toe, knit the tube, and then finished with a toe, which means one has increases, one toe has increases, one has decreases, but it's not like anyone can tell, especially in a black yarn, but even otherwise, I don't think it matters. So I finished the toe I finished this toe yesterday, and then I separated the tube into half. So what I first did is I counted the rows, and I was gonna divide it by rows, but I think my gauge changed over times, because had I done that, one sock, it just looked a little bit longer than the other. So in the end, I just sort of eyeballed it and went by the stripes and what I thought would work, and I separated the tube into two socks. So if you've never done that before, basically the same technique that you would use for an afterthought heel, where you pick up stitches, you decide which row is going to be cut open, and then you pick up stitches, the row below and the row above, and then you basically just snip one stitch and you can unravel it, and then you have two socks. If you want more info on this, because I know people have asked about it, I don't have a setup for tutorials, but if you put sock tube into YouTube, you literally have a couple of sock tube tutorials come up that explain this in detail. So if you want to know more, please just use Google and YouTube and all of that. Anyway, so I have two socks now. And for the first one, I actually finished the heel yesterday. So I did an afterthought heel. I just didn't have a grafting needle downstairs, which is why I need to graft it. But otherwise, this first sock is done. And then I just have to do one more heel, and then I will have one finished pair of socks, which makes me really excited. I think this colorway is incredibly fun. I had no idea what this was going to knit up like. I just got this random skein of Fab Funky Fibers, and I had been wanting to try the yarn for a long time. So I didn't really care about the colors, but I think it's actually really cool. And I apologize, the sun is blasting in. I tried to play with curtains and it just made the lighting worse, so we're just gonna go with this, but if the lighting isn't ideal, then I'm sorry. It is a very bright sock. I don't think it's coming across as bright as it really is. Like, this is a proper like bright flamingo pink, and this is a sort of Barbie pink. But yeah, and the interesting thing is I have quite large feet. I am knitting for like a size 42 European, and as you can tell, this is where my heel is, so it actually turns into a really long sock if you use contrasting heel, cuffs, and toes, considering I only had 50 grams of the self-striping. So I'm really excited about that, and I may have spent my birthday money ordering some more 50 gram skeins of Fab Funky Fibers to do more of these kinds of socks, because I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed the base as well. So yeah, this was definitely a successful holiday knit. Again, just one more afterthought heel to do. The contrasting yarn I'm using for this is an alpaca sock yarn. So it's a bit more fuzzy and a bit thicker, but I think it works really well. And then I'll have a finished pair of socks. Next up, I had taken yarn to knit myself another Lentil sweater. The Lentil is a pattern by Jonna Hietala, who's a Finnish designer. And I had picked this yarn to knit another Lentil. So this is a very thin British wool from Uppingham Yarns. It comes on cones. It's incredibly affordable. I had bought a couple of these cones a while ago. I think they're like 200 or 250 gram cones, which I think is quite handy because they're, I don't know, I think I paid like 10 pounds for it maybe. And if you pair them with something, possibly even if you don't pair them, because this is quite a thin yarn, you can have a sweater's quantity of yarn for very little money. So this is like a blue shade, and I paired it with this lilac-y mohair from Nori Yarns in the UK. And you know what? I love it. So on holiday, I basically knitted the yoke of this Lentil. And then upon coming home just yesterday, I think I had like 3 or 4 more increases to do, and then I managed to split for the sleeves. And this is just like most summery sort of lilac-y blue shade, and I love it. I love it so much. I'm really excited to wear this. I took my pink Lentil on holiday with me, and I wore it all the time, like when it got a bit chilly at night, because it was quite windy. It looked lovely in pictures, but it was quite windy. And my previous Lentil is like slightly cropped, but not too cropped. It's nice and roomy, and because it's such a loose gauge, it really, like, it just gives a tiny bit of warmth without feeling like you're wearing a wool sweater, and I love it. So I think this one is going to be great for like summer evenings and spring, and yeah, I just love these Lentils. I've talked about them a lot in the past. Once again, I'm doing eyelets as increases, and now that I'm done with the sleeves, I'm just gonna, zip around for the body. I think I've only just started my second skein of mohair, so I tend to actually get away with only using 3 25 gram balls of mohair for my Lentils for my size. So yeah, that is that. I'm really excited by it. Kai actually got really mad at the toddler this morning because he was playing with it and he thought he had ripped out the needles, but he actually didn't. He just sort of pulled on the needles and then kept poking it. But the knitting is fine, and anyways, he pulls my needles out of my projects so often. It's really annoying, but I'm sort of used to it. So that is my Lentil. And then I also, and I'm quite amazed I actually cast this on, I decided to knit a shawl on holiday, and I haven't really knit any. I mean, I do knit shawls, but most of my knitting recently has been like really plain things, like the half and half wrap and the not a Sophie scarf that I did. But I actually felt like something slightly more interesting, and I was thinking like brioche and what could I do, and in the end I decided to knit the Cinnabar shawl by Andrea Mowry, which is a brioche pattern. And you may remember in a past episode I talked about how I'm doing this challenge where you basically picked 1,000 grams or 1 kilo of sock yarn out of my stash, and I'm trying to use it up as quickly as possible just to get some yarn out of stash. And this was one of the skeins that I had put in my little basket. This is Perth, what's it called? It's the Queensland Perth sock yarn. If you type that into Google, you should find it. It's like one of those handspun looking saba ball kind of yarns. And I got this at Beautiful Knitters in London when I went there last autumn, I should say. And I decided to pair this with some really, really, really old stash. Like, this has been in my stash for, I don't know, at least 4 or 5 years. I bought this when we visited my in-laws at some point, way before Toddler, way before pregnancy. So this has just been sitting there. This is some BC yarn. It's their Shetland base. I'm not sure what it's called. It might just be called BC yarn Bio Shetland or something. It's, again, one of those really thin woolly yarns that are quite affordable. It's a dark sort of purple. It shows up really differently depending on the light, which is quite interesting. And I have actually made quite a bit of progress on my Cinnabar shawl. So this is it. Supposedly this is the front side, not that it matters with brioche. So as you can tell, I really like this sort of contrasting garter band around the edge, and then it has brioche with brioche stripes and garter stitch on this section. And obviously it can basically work either way. And because the yarn is self-patterning, the grey, originally I thought I wasn't going to do the brioche stripes, which is why I think in the pattern the striping starts a bit earlier. But I did decide to do the stripes in the end, and I think they're actually really fun. I think because my sort of color changing yarn doesn't change that much, especially when you contrast it with this. It's nice to get that sort of interesting detail with the stripes, whereas the original is knit in spin cycle, I believe. And some of the spin cycle yarns, they're quite busy, so in that case I think I prefer the non-striped version. But anyway, so I'm sort of loosely following the pattern, and it is, like, casting on, it always seems really daunting, especially with brioche, because the instructions just seem like really long and really complicated. But I think most of that is just because brioche is sort of complicated to write up. I mean, I have published a brioche pattern, and I found the same thing there. So with this one, because it's basically just increases, it's quite simple and mindless, and I don't need to look at the pattern, and I'm really enjoying it. So this is where we are with that. I'm still on my first 50-gram ball of the contrast color. I think I have like four skeins of these, and I'm never gonna use them up on this. I don't think I'm gonna use that much yarn actually. I think the pattern is originally written for like a DK, possibly sport, but I think DK weight. So I'm just basically going to increase until the size feels right to me rather than what the pattern says, because obviously the pattern will be written for a thicker gauge. Oh, and I'm using 3.75 millimeter needles for this as well. So that is my Cinnabar shawl. I feel like this was the rage a few years ago, and I've been wanting to knit it for years, and I finally have, so I'm quite excited about that. And then I did one last cast on because I had one more skein of yarn in my little holiday bag of yarn. And this is the last skein from my China Dye Works bundle. By the way, I'm not sponsored. I just had this yarn and I chose to knit up what I had. Just in case it comes across as advertisement. It is not. I am spending my own money, unfortunately. Anyways, this again was in the surprise bundle, and this was an MCN base. So this is merino, cashmere, and nylon. It's a sock yarn in a one-of-a-kind colorway, and I started knitting this on the plane back. It was a very long flight back, I will say, with a very cranky toddler who spent most of the time, to be fair, watching Peppa Pig, because it was either Peppa Pig or crying. And I started with a 2x2 rib. And then I really wanted to knit something interesting, so I went through my phone, which was in flight mode because we were on the plane, but I sort of went through whatever sock patterns I had downloaded on it previously. And I started knitting my Smoky cable socks because I just felt like doing something a bit more interesting. And I knit like probably a good chunk of like this cabled sock until I had to honestly just tell myself it doesn't work with this yarn, because this yarn is just too busy. And if you haven't seen my Smoky cabled socks, the sample is knit in a very sort of unicolor yarn, so there's no sort of variegation or anything on it, and I've always been wanting to recreate it on a more speckled yarn, but it just this is just too busy, so it wasn't working. So unfortunately I had to rip it back, and then I've decided to just use some broken rib socks. So these are the Decathlon socks on Ravelry. If you want a pattern, it's a free pattern, but essentially it's just a broken rib, and I do think it looks really nice. I haven't picked this up ever since we got back, but it is on the needles. I am really enjoying the yarn. These socks are definitely going to be for me, even though of course Kai has hinted that he would really like them as well, but these ones are going to be for me. And yeah, so basically that is all of my knitting that I've done on holiday. My voice is going, by the way, I'm sorry, I apologize. I think it is caused by hay fever and talking too much. Yeah, so that is that. That's basically all I've been working on, and ever since coming back I have picked up my prism blanket again, but I haven't really made much progress. And then, as you have seen, I've been working on finishing my tube socks and my lentil. I just really wanted to get past the sort of separation of the sleeves, and now I can just, you know, zip around, and it'll be, I think, finished relatively quickly if I actually work on it. In terms of knitting plans, I already mentioned that I definitely have now fallen in love with Fab Funky Fibers, and in fact I had a big birthday on my holiday, and Kai got me 2 50-gram skeins of Fab Funky Fibers, which I thought I would show really quickly. This is the Octavia colorway, which is a self-striper. I think it's like purple stripes, and then different colors in between. So this should be quite fun. And I have also, I will admit, fallen down the Toaster Tea rabbit hole by Crea Bea Knits with Rebecca. As you have seen, I have been knitting lentils and multiple lentils, and that's been sort of like the perfect like addiction for me recently. And Rebecca has come out with the Toaster Tee, which is like a t-shirt. Again, it's pretty basic. It's a top-down raglan. It's DK weight right now, but she's coming out with a fingering weight sort of version that will be included, which I quite like, because there's only so many DK weight gauge tops I need in my life. But I thought if she comes up with a fingering version as well, it'll actually be sort of similar to the lentil, just she gives you like variations and you can build on it, and it's meant to be more of like a summer garment knit with cotton. And I mean, obviously you can do whatever you want, but I thought it's like a similar idea, and so I let myself be influenced. I've bought the pattern, and I may have, again, it was my birthday, I may have gotten the yarn for it as well. So again, not sponsored. These are the woolly knit cones. These are the cotton cones, which I haven't used before. I've dabbled knitting with summer yarns. I often don't like them. I'm not like a big summer knits person, also because a lot of the patterns that people typically knit in summer don't really appeal to me. Like a lot of the tanks and tops and lacy things, I just don't really, I don't like knitting them. I don't know if I would wear them a lot. My hands don't handle linen, and they only handle like some cotton every now and then. But this sort of like more relaxed like t-shirt style, I thought that would actually work for me. So I've got myself 3 colors. Does it tell me the color names? Yeah, this is mustard yellow. This, which I think is my favorite, this is natural beige, and it's a really nice color. I think it's not white, it's not off-white, it's not too creamy. It's like an actual beige, like a creamy white. This doesn't make any sense, but I didn't want like a proper white, and I also don't like when cream turns too much into like a yellowy cream, but this one I really like. And then I got magenta, which honestly I actually expected both of these to be a bit darker and a bit more saturated. They're quite like light and summery, But I do actually still quite like them, and so my idea was I definitely need like something striped with these two. Also, I could do like block stripes with this, which I think would be really fun for summer. And then Rebecca has like a lacy eyelet version in a, I think she has it in a white, but I think this in a cream would look really nice as well. And the thing is, you get like 400 grams of yarn on these, so I can use these for like a million different things, really. Obviously for the decay weight version, you hold these double, but I'm also thinking I might hold one with mohair, or I might wait for the fingering weight version and just do like a single strand project with these, which obviously will make them last even longer. So I hope I'm gonna actually use these. I am planning to cast these on pretty soon. And yeah, I have a lot of cotton in my life now, but I don't mind because I don't actually have much cotton in my stash at all. I think I have one like garment or like t-shirt quantity of a very affordable drops cotton, and that's it. So now I have replenished my cotton yarns, and yeah, that's a knitting plan for the future. I don't really usually share my acquisitions, but I think it's interesting if you have plans for it. So I think that's what I'm going to do going forward. So yeah, that's basically it. That's what I've been knitting on. That's also what I've been buying because it is birthday month after all. And yeah, that's basically all I have for you guys today. For some holiday chat, if you are interested in that, basically we went to Portugal for 10 days, also sort of to celebrate my birthday and get out from this like massive like hole of, basically my entire life has been like house buying, moving, renovating, and then obviously we have a toddler and life has been busy, and we have a couple of changes coming up in summer. And no, I am not pregnant, in case anyone thinks that. So this felt like a good time to have a family holiday, and I'm really, really glad we did it. We were a little bit unlucky with the weather, because it was quite windy. So if you have like 20-degree weather, as soon as the wind goes, it's lovely and warm. But if the wind is blowing and the place that we were at is apparently known for being quite windy, it feels cooler. But it was still lovely. We went to the same place last year, and I think it was just a bit more lucky then, but it was generally really nice. And also, you know, just being away from home, being away from a house that has like a million jobs that's screaming at you every single day, being away from home reno, being away from having to cook and load the dishwasher and unload the dishwasher and do laundry, that was just really, really nice. And obviously Toddler loved it. This was like the first holiday that he really like grasped the concept of it, and he was like so excited about it for 8 weeks leading up to it, and he was loving it. And he had a great time there. He made friends, and now obviously because he's bilingual, it's really handy because he could literally talk to everyone. There was a lot of Germans, but also a lot of English people there, and he just had the best time. So yeah, that was our holiday, and as you could see, I got quite a bit of knitting done. You never know with holidays and kids, especially small kids, like toddlers, like, is it going to work out? Are you actually going to have time to relax? And of course, like, it would have been 10 times more relaxing without a kiddo there, but actually I did get quite a bit of knitting time and just relaxing, and it was really nice. So yeah, now that we're back, basically reality hit us full force. We got back quite late on Thursday night and found that we had quite a few ants in our house, which we have now dealt with. Also, I have a lot of plants which I am usually okay with leaving. They usually make it for about 10 to 12 days without being watered with the necessary precautions, but it got warm just as we left, and some of my plants were in our conservatory and they just died. Like, it was horrible. I was quite gutted. To be fair, a lot of them, they were plant babies of plants that I have multiples of, so I'm not too sad about those, but some of them, like, they just scorched. Like, it just got too warm in there, and so I had to deal with like dead plants, and well, it wasn't very nice. And then obviously you're coming back from a trip, you have like 17 loads of laundry that need to be done, and everything has just been all over the place. But now I think we're sort of back in the routine, and yeah, so hopefully now I'm hoping everything will sort of settle down. And yeah, it's always a bit of anxiety going back into like the first week of like normal life and routine and everything after being away, but hopefully everything should calm down. I hope the toddler calms down a bit, and yeah. So now that we're back, I have some knitting plans, like the toaster. I want to keep working on my prison blanket because I'm halfway done now, and I just have all these ideas of things I would like to knit. Strangely, going into summer, I feel like knitting a cabled sweater. I have my eyes on a couple of patterns that I would like to knit. Just generally, I have so many things I would like to knit. I have a lot of motivation. I just need to find the time to actually do it, but obviously there's life going on as well. We want to do some more painting. We spent the morning having guests and then building a toddler bed because Toddler is too big for his baby bed, but he doesn't really want to make the transition, so that'll be interesting and take up more of my time. But yeah, it's just life being busy as it should be. Luckily, we finally have some good weather in the UK, which feels so nice because it feels like we've had the worst spring. I feel like I usually like winter, I like autumn, I like cold weather, but we basically just have rain and cold weather right until we left. So it's nice to come back and actually have some springy like garden weather. Anyways, I'm just talking about nonsense now, so I'm going to let you guys know, but go. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will attempt to be back next week, hopefully with some new progress and possibly some new projects. Until then, I hope all of you stay safe and healthy and have some fun yarn to play with. I will see you very soon. Happy knitting. Bye!